What is up, everybody? This is Alex from IHE Beaver. Today I'm talking about Pixar's Hoppers. I found that I didn't think advertised very well. The trailers looked pretty generic. Some of the humor wasn't really working, but I think it's kind of the best case scenario where they kind of show a bunch of the worst parts, or at least the weaker act of the movie, with all the truly creative and kind of batshit stuff being saved for the movie proper. I was trying to think the last time I actually went to the cinema to see a Pixar movie, because they've looked so boring and uninspired for so long now that I think it wasn't since 2018, The Incredibles 2 for me, where I last saw one, and that was a disappointment too. Because they've had some really weak stuff lately. I talked about Elio on this channel. The Oscar-nominated Elio wasn't into Inside Out 2 or Elemental or Lightyear. Turning Red was okay. This is probably their best film since Soul, which I did quite enjoy. And not just because of Trent. When it started, I immediately enjoyed this character. She's like a passionate, eco 19-year-old with anger issues. I like the design of her hair. Whenever she gets mad, it kind of fizzles upwards, and the bandage is a cool touch to her design. The trailers made it look like it was obviously going to go for cute, and it does go for cute. It leans much more into the let's just be weird and cute than the trope of trying to make you cry. Not that that's not in there in some respect. That was one thing I was a little bit more disappointed on, was that it seemed like they were resisting the urge to do that early on, but had to keep doing kind of sentimental flashbacks, which are okay. They get at the heart of what the movie is kind of going for, but it definitely wasn't the best thing about it. The whole premise of it basically being Avatar, but you go into like a robotic beaver, silly idea, like where are you going to take that? And they seem very concerned in that first act of communicating the rules of it, like really dumbing it down so kids can understand. They try and make a joke out of it, and the humor's pretty goofy and fluffy for the most part, pardon the pun. And I wasn't really finding it funny until it really got to the halfway point or so, and you started to see where it was going, because I was concerned it was going to be a typical Save the Rec Center kind of structure, which it is to a certain degree, but the directions and the scale and surprises that it pulls out genuinely caught me off guard. And the world building is surprisingly good and new for this type of animal movie, where they're kind of like all these various monarchies around the different types of animals. You can see it better on the letterbox poster, where each category of animal has a different king or queen. So there's like the mammal king is the beaver, the reptile queens are the snakes, fish queen, frog king, and so on and so on, which I was really sold by the time you got to that council scene. They do some fun tricks to communicate the rules of when, obviously animals can't speak to humans, so they've got to visually communicate when a human can talk to an animal or can't. And they do that with the facial expressions and the style of the eyes or the hair of the character, which is really fun and easy to understand and follow. It never gets confused with that stuff. And what it does with the hopping technology is honestly like it's more creative than like Avatar, which they reference in the trailer, and I was a little bit concerned that it was going to be like reference heavy or fall back on those kind of cliches, but it's more of a shorthand to kind of communicate the concept in a movie so quick that just wants to move on, and it's really not that serious. I think it's a comedy first. Some of the jokes they wind up pulling out, actually I was like laughing out loud, which I don't think I've laughed at one of these movies, even the ones I've liked, in a long time. I do love absurdist humor, and it really gets pretty insane at a certain point. There's some great visual humor, and as I say, using this kind of sci-fi concept to get weird with it, almost to the point of body horror, which is some of the more fun, expressive animation I've seen from them in ages, like the creative ideas being translated into something that can actually flex animation. Wait, what is that? Mabel joins the race. The actual fuck? Okay. Isn't Mabel in Fortnite now? We got Mabel in Fortnite, everybody. Mabel plush. Oh, and the lizard too. Yeah, not all the humor worked. There's a lot of kind of screaming and random non sequiturs, which I can deal with to a certain degree. I think kids would love it. And going back to some of the details in the animation, there's like an old man character quite early on in the movie I thought was animated extremely well. Super expressive. Really fun to watch with a pretty good gag based around him. I just like an unabashedly silly movie that doesn't take itself too seriously and finds angles with its characters to make it a bit more complicated than it seems on its face. Like the Mayor Jerry villainous character, a character archetype we've seen 100 trillion times in movies, but you just couldn't anticipate what they were going to do with him, and made it way more interesting as a result. I thought John Hamm actually did a good vocal performance too, that if I didn't know it was him going in, I don't think I would have recognized that it was him at all. He was doing something completely different with his voice. Obviously it has environmental themes, just like Avatar, and I thought the way it addressed like eco-anxiety And this concept of feeling like everything is broken and that you can't make a difference. Something pretty real and sincere for a movie so, like, insane. They do the trope that is, like, the most boring, especially animated, overused cliche of the lie, the hidden lie that has to be revealed at the convenient time, which is unfortunate. But luckily, by that point, it wasn't that important to what was going on. With these chase scenes and action sequences and visual flair of these various characters and the way they were interacting was kind of entertaining and funny enough for some of the structural stuff to not bother me too much. So the lie thing is kind of annoying. There are still plot decisions that are genuinely clever and unpredictable and hilarious. It was like, oh my god, you actually went there. How are you going to wrap this up? That's what I kept thinking for like the last 40 minutes was like, where is this going? What are you going to do with this? Loved all the animation for the weirder stuff. I'll do a little spoiler section in a minute, detailing what I mean. You probably know if you've seen the movie. But I don't know, this speaks to me on a, like, this is such like a random non sequitur, but like, I genuinely love beavers. I'm passionate about beavers, okay? Ever since a few years ago, where in the UK it started becoming a conversation and has actually been enacted, that we've been returning beavers, just like the movie, to the UK, because I guess we hunted them for their asshole glands so we could make vanilla substitutes. Which is a real thing, by the way. That's what the vanilla joke in the movie was about. I thought that was funny that they got that in there. I know all these random facts, like they've got the third eyelid. I believe they're the only other mammal that builds things like humans. They're like so important to the ecology. As far as how that applies to the movie, it is really funny, just on like a visual concept level, to have the king of all mammals be a beaver. It's funny, it's cute, it's weird. I also like the decision to include humans in the category. It doesn't treat humans as if they're something different from animals, especially in how that relates to how we share an environment and how we're supposed to all be in this together if everything were ideal. So I'm going to talk a couple spoilers now, which are worth not knowing if you haven't seen the movie because it catches you off guard in a pretty funny way. I'll start with the bug stuff. I liked all the bug characters. They were funny to make them the villain too. All the kind of more horror stuff, the pupating scene, and obviously by the time he becomes a full butterfly, which I thought Dave Franco actually did a good job for. It was like a good vocal match to the way the character moved and sounded. So yeah, when you get the Insect King using the hopper technology on like a on like a robot human, and like the face being ripped off, and it's like pretty dark and creepy. And the animation for the way the human moved, kind of like a bug, was really cool and fucked up. And the robot version of this guy, who's kind of like drained of life, he's like got grey skin and he's kind of sweating a bit and just moves around so weirdly. There was some extremely cool animation with like the way the snakes moved around, the water and the fish, the combination of all of them. Probably my biggest laugh was the visual of this shark being lifted by the seagulls. They're like trying to squish him. A really funny bit that got me good, gets reincorporated nicely towards the end when they all work together, acknowledging how silly everything is with like these rules of like, well, when you're hungry you just kind of eat each other and it's just accepted in this world. It's kind of a funny way of addressing it with the villain being eaten by this frog at the end. There are certain scenes here that are pretty brilliant. So this was directed by Daniel Chong, who is known as the creator of We Bare Bears, which I'd never seen, but from the clips it seems kind of cute and charming. I just like there being an original animated movie that is good quality, isn't afraid to be weird. People seem to be enjoying it for its weirdness, which is cool. Want to celebrate that. So yeah, this is definitely my favorite Pixar movie in a long time. Years and years and years. Not life-changing, it's not that emotionally resonant, but would happily watch this again. So I give this a solid 3.5 star with a famed like. Let me know your thoughts on Hoppers. Is it return to form? Was the humor too much for you? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye!